Welcome to this week's episode of Beyond This, the podcast where we talk grounded spirituality for everyday life. You know that feeling when you think about someone and 30 seconds later they text you and you go, I knew it. I felt that. I want you to sit with that feeling for a second, because today's episode isn't about telling you that feeling is fake. It's about something much more interesting than that. It's about why your brain is built to find that moment. And forget the 400 times you thought of someone and they didn't text. Today we're talking about confirmation bias in spirituality, in politics, in the news you watch, in your relationships, in the way I do my own work as a medium. Because yes, I'm going there too. I'm not exempting myself from this conversation. And underneath all of it, we're going to sit with the bigger question. One, I think, is the real engine behind confirmation bias. Why do we want certainty so badly that we'll bend reality to get it? I'm Matilda. This is Beyond This. Let's get into it. Let's start with the plain definition, because I think this term gets thrown around a lot without people sitting with what it means. Confirmation bias is a tendency to search for, notice, remember, and favour information that confirms what we already believe, and to ignore, dismiss, and explain away information that contradicts it. That's it. That's the whole mechanism. But the reason it's so powerful is that it doesn't feel like a bias. From the inside, it feels like evidence. It feels like you're just noticing things, being observant, following the clues. Here's the part that I think people miss. Confirmation bias isn't a flaw in otherwise rational thinking. It's not a glitch. Behavioural economists, and I spent years in that world before I ever picked up a microphone to talk about spirit, will tell you confirmation bias is actually efficient. Your brain processes something like 11 million bits of information a second, and your conscious mind can only handle about 40 of those bits. Your brain has a filter, and it filters using your existing beliefs as a kind of shorthand. Does this match what I already think is true? Yes, keep it. No, file it under noise. That shorthand kept our ancestors alive. If you already believed the rustling bush meant danger, you didn't stop to conduct a controlled study of rustling bushes. You ran. The cost of a false positive running from nothing was low. The cost of a false negative not running from a predator was death. So we evolved to lean towards pattern confirmation, not pattern accuracy. The problem is that same wiring that once kept us safe from triggers now decides what news source we trust, what psychic reading we believe, who we vote for, whether we think our partner is lying to us. We didn't outgrow the mechanism. We just gave it new bushes to rustle. Confirmation bias in spirituality and psychic industry is real. Let's go where it's uncomfortable, because I promised you I would. I am a working medium. I read for people professionally. I built my entire career and my show on the premise that that connection beyond the veil is real. So you'd be forgiven for thinking, I have a vested interest in not talking about this. But here's my actual position, and I want to be really clear about this. The existence of confirmation bias in the psychic and spiritual space doesn't disprove phenomenon. It doesn't disprove the spirit world. But it absolutely explains why so much of what passes for evidence in this industry is absolute garbage. Let's talk about how it operates mechanically. There's something called the Barnum effect, sometimes called the Forer effect, named after psychologist Bertram Forer, who in 1948 gave a group of students what he told them was a personalized personality assessment. Every single student got the exact same generic paragraph. Things like, you have a need for other people to like you. At times, you are extroverted, but at other times, you are introverted. On average, people rated its accuracy at how well it captured them personally, roughly 85 out of 100. It was the same paragraph for everyone. Now, put that into a reading. A practitioner says, I'm sensing someone with an M name, a father figure, or someone father-like. There's a heart condition or something around the chest. Statistically, a huge percentage of people sitting across from a medium will have someone in their life, living or past, whose name starts with 1 or maybe 6 or 7 common initials. A huge percentage will have a father figure who had some kind of health issue, because that's simply what happens to a body as it ages. That's not clairvoyance. That's demographics. And here's where confirmation bias takes the wheel. The sitter's brain does the heavy lifting. For the practitioner, they hear the name N and their mind starts scrolling. Michael, Margaret, Mum. My neighbour is called Maria. And their mind starts scrolling until it lands on someone. Then, retroactively, the mind attaches all the other generic statements to that specific person. And suddenly, a vague, cold reading feels like a laser-precise, unmistakable message from beyond. This is called a retrofitting. The sitter isn't lying. They're not being stupid. Their brain is doing exactly what it's evolved to do, searching for the match and discarding the misses. If the practitioner throws about 10 statements and land 2, the sitter's memory of the reading afterwards will centre almost entirely on the 2 hits. The 8 misses evaporate. I've watched this happen in my own room. I've had people come out of readings and tell someone else she knew everything. And when I think back over the actual transcript, I offered plenty that didn't land. And they simply didn't register it. Not because they're gullible, because that's what the human brain does with ambiguous information under emotional load, especially grief. Grief is basically confirmation bias's favorite operating environment, because a grieving person is not neutrally evaluating evidence. They are desperate for a match. Now, I want to be careful here, because I'm not saying this explains away all mediumship, and I'm not going to pretend I've resolved that debate on a podcast. What I am saying is, if you work in this field, or if you consult someone in this field, you have an ethical obligation to understand this mechanism. Specificity matters. Falsifiability matters. A reading that could apply to almost anyone isn't evidence or connection, or evidence of connection. It's a mirror with confirmation bias doing the reflecting. The same thing happens with signs. You ask spirit for signs, you specify nothing, and then a butterfly appears. And it feels like proof. But butterflies appear constantly. You just weren't counting them before you were looking for them. This is sometimes called the frequency illusion, or the Bardia-Meinhof phenomenon. You learn a new word and suddenly you hear it everywhere. Not because it's suddenly more common, but because your brain has started tagging it is relevant. I still believe signs happen. I still believe in meaningful synchronicity. But I think we owe it to the people we serve, to ourselves, to hold that belief with an awareness of the bias, not the denial of it. The two aren't mutually exclusive. You can believe in something and still interrogate how you're gathering your evidence. I see it with signs all the time. When we're looking for certainty, and maybe we want to believe that something is good, that something happening is good, and that we can relax. And then we suddenly notice sign after sign after sign. Is it just confirmation bias, or are we being told it's okay? Let's shift into territory that's uncomfortable in a completely different way. In politics, confirmation bias doesn't shape opinion, it shapes what counts as a fact in the first place. There's research on something called motivated reasoning, which is really confirmation bias, his more sophisticated cousin. It's not just that we favour information that agrees with us. It's that when we encounter information that threatens our political identity, we hold, our brain doesn't process it like neutral fact. It processes it more like a physical threat. Studies using brain imaging have shown that when politically committed people are shown information that contradicts their candidate or party, the areas of the brain associated with emotional threat and identity light up, not the areas associated with cool, dispassionate reasoning. That's why you can show two people the exact same set of statistics on the economy, on crime, on immigration, on climate, and they'll walk away with opposite conclusions, both feeling completely vindicated. They're not looking at the facts and the reasoning to a conclusion. They're starting from an identity. I am the kind of person who believes X, and then reasoning backward, selecting which facts to admit as legitimate. Social media has industrialized this. The algorithms aren't ideological. They don't care what you believe. They care what keeps you scrolling. And what keeps you scrolling is content that makes you feel right or content, that makes you angry at people who are wrong. Engagement, not accuracy, is the currency. So the platform will happily build you a hall of mirrors, one click at a time. And it will feel like the world agrees with you, because the only world you're shown is the one that does. A real sobering research here is on something called the backfire effect. Although I'll say the evidence on this one is more mixed and contested than people often assume. So I don't want to overstate it. The original idea was that correcting someone's false political belief with facts could actually make them believe more strongly, because the correction feels like an attack on identity and triggers defensive entrenchment. Later replications have found this doesn't happen as reliably or as universally as the first studies suggest. Sometimes corrections do work. Sometimes they don't move anyone. And it seems to depend heavily on the topic and the person. But even in the more cautious modern reading, one thing holds up consistently. Facts alone very rarely change a politically identity linked belief because the belief was never really about the facts in the first place. It was about belonging. That's the part I want to sit with for a second because I think it applies everywhere. Confirmation bias shows up, not just politics. We don't usually hold beliefs because we did the analysis that landed there. We hold beliefs because they tell us who we are and who our people are. And then we go looking for the analysis to back it up. Let's bring this closer to home because I don't want this to feel like something that only happens to other people in other domains. Media is the most obvious one, and I've partly covered it. But I want to talk about something more subtle, which is narrative confirmation bias in how we consume news about our own lives. Health scares are a great example. You feel a strange twinge in your body. You go looking online, and confirmation bias doesn't just shape which search results you click. It shapes which symptoms you even notice in your own body afterwards. Suddenly, you're hyper aware of sensation you've ignored a week ago because now you have a hypothesis and your body is generating data points to match it. Relationships run on this constantly. If you go into a relationship believing people always leave, you will genuinely, accurately notice every small moment of distance, every late reply, every short tone of voice. And you will not notice with the same intensity the 100 small moments of presence because they don't confirm the story. This is one of the crueler things about confirmation bias. It can manufacture a very evidence that convinces you your fear was justified. And by the time the relationship ends badly, it feels like proof you were right all along, rather than a self-fulfilling prophecy your own attention helped build. Even something as mundane as your daily horoscope or a friend's opinion of your new haircut runs through the same filter. We are all of us walking around with a search engine running in the background of our minds, and the query is constantly running is show me what I already believe. The uncomfortable truth is that being intelligent doesn't protect you from this. If anything, research suggests smarter, more articulate people can be better at confirmation bias, not worse, because they're more skilled at constructing sophisticated justification for what they already wanted to believe. Confirmation bias isn't stupidity, it's a human problem. And we do it for a reason. We reach for certainty. So let's go underneath all of this because I don't think confirmation bias is really the disease. It's a symptom. The disease, if we're going to call it that, is our relationship with uncertainty. Certainty feels like safety. That's the root of it. Psychologically, ambiguity is metabolically expensive for the brain. It takes real cognitive and emotional energy to hold two possibilities open at once without resolving them. Uncertainty activates something very close to a threat response. Not knowing whether you'll be okay whether the relationship will last, whether the diagnosis is serious, whether the person you lost is truly at peace. That not knowing is unbearable for most nervous systems. So the mind will often take the wrong answer over an unresolved question. Because a wrong answer at least lets the nervous system stand down. I think about this constantly in grief work. When someone is sitting across from me, freshly bereaved, what they are asking for underneath the words is rarely, just tell me what my mother would say. What they're asking is, make the unbearable amount of not knowing stop. Is she okay? Did I do enough? Will I be okay? Certainty, even a fragile, borrowed certainty, is a painkiller for that. And I think that's true whether someone finds their painkiller in a reading, in a political tribe, in a religious doctrine, in a conspiracy theory, or a confidently wrong headline. Different bottle, same drug. There's a concept from psychology called need for cognitive closure. Some people have a higher baseline need for it than others, and it goes up for everyone under stress. Time, pressure, fatigue, and grief. Under high need for closure, we do two things. We grab the first available answer and then we freeze on it, becoming resistant to revising it even when better information turns up. That's confirmation bias's engine room. It's not that we're incapable of nuance. It's that nuance costs energy. We don't have when we're frightened, exhausted, or grieving. And certainty, even false certainty, is cheaper. I also think, and this is where my behavioural economics background and my spiritual work actually agree with each other more than people expect, that certainty is deeply tied to identity and belonging. If I believe X and my community believes X, then doubting X isn't just an intellectual risk, it's a social risk. It threatens my place in the group. So the reach for certainty isn't purely about managing fear of the unknown. It's also about managing the fear of standing alone. Here's what I want to offer you instead. And it's not stop seeking certainty, because I don't think that's realistic or even necessarily healthy. It's this. Can you learn to tolerate a little more uncertainty than you currently can? Not infinite uncertainty, not nihilism, just a slightly wider window, because the width of that window is, I think, one of the most underrated measures of a person's actual wisdom. Not how confident they sound, but how much unresolved, not knowing they can hold without needing to fill it immediately. The reason I'm talking about confirmation bias today, and the reason I think it's a really important thing for us to investigate as spiritual practitioners, as spiritual followers, as spiritual people, is I get asked a lot of questions on lives during any of my events that are confirming what you were taught as a child, or confirming a religious belief, confirming what two-bit mediums, psychics, charlatans, for want of a better word, are teaching online. There are many things that I urge you to investigate that many spiritual gurus teach that aren't quite reality. I've worked with the spirit world for over 2 decades. Much of what I see on social media is out of a storybook. I also watch and have seen people that are metaphysical practitioners use confirmation bias in their delivery, in their decision making, in their belief system without thinking outside the box. And I think it's really important that we all learn to practice discernment. I'm going to jump in now and do my Patreon shout outs, talk about what I've got going on, what you've got going on. We're going to do my predictions and talk about some stuff that's already happened. And what I see coming in, especially July, August. And we're going to end on a meditation, which is based on sitting with not knowing. Don't know about Patreon. I don't know where you've been because I talk about it every week. It is the platform where I do most of my teaching. I have different tiers, one for manifesting, one that is just $5, which sponsors this podcast. And you get a great newsletter and you have access to our community. We have our metaphysical mavens where no, we don't. We have our magnificent manifestors. Oh my gosh, Matilda. Um, that's where you get a daily prompt about manifesting. I also have my connected tier. Now, the connected tier I'm going to talk about now. Everyone, doesn't matter what platform I'm on, ask at one point or another, how do I connect with my guides? The connected tier is for you. The connected tier is teaching you that self-development and that spiritual development in one platform, one place. We have monthly circles, we have teaching, we have workbooks, we have a community. That's the place you need to go. If you are a connected tier member, you will automatically get access to my Are You Listening course, which is this weekend for free. That is the workshop where I teach about building that relationship that is already there, that connection with your guides and remembering it, leaning into it. That is the workshop you want to be a part of. It is free to connected team members. If you are not a connected team member, you can purchase access to that workshop in the show notes or on my website. That is what we've got going on. Remember, all Patreon members get discounts to one-on-one readings. I have a lot of Zoom events coming up, my Zoom mediumship events. They are for everyone. I have one in August specifically that is Europe-centric. When I say Europe-centric, everyone and anyone can attend, but I've made the time possible for the UK and Europe because I was asked to do so. And so far, I've got 4 people in there. Please book, or I will not be making one available to Europe or a time available to Europe and London again, because I have to stay up late for it. That's why we are doing it that way. I'm going to give my Patreon shout outs now. So, Keanu Marsh, welcome to Connected. I can't wait to see you in the next group. I hope you have gone back and gone into the collections because every group I run is available there for you. Paula Rogers, Olivia, welcome to the Magnificent Manifestors. Don't forget to text the number that you would have gotten in your confirmation email so I can add you to the WhatsApp chat. Sarah Paris, welcome. And Gloria, welcome. Thank you for joining my Patreon. You support this podcast and support me to continue doing the teaching that I do. And my gosh, I appreciate you. My community would not be what it is today without each and every one of you. We have so much fun in there. Come join us. Come join us. What have I got going on at the moment? Okay, so I talked quickly about the Are You Listening workshop. That is my flagship workshop. That is the one I teach you how to remember that connection with your guides and your intuition, how to lean into it, how to use it in everyday life. Not to become a psychic medium, but intuition and guidance is there for everyone. Everyone. What else do I have going on? A couple of Zoom groups going on. 15th of August, I have my live mediumship event here in Bendigo. If you are in Victoria, you can book your tickets through the link in the show notes or on my website. There are still some tickets left. Small, intimate, 120 people. Come along and join us. The energy in a live event is phenomenal. It's amazing. Come and join us. Lots going on. I am in the middle of writing. My November dates have been released. I am into about neck deep renovations of the master bedroom. And painting of the outside of the house. I am sick of the cold weather. That is something you would never hear Matilda normally say. I am waiting for spring. I want to get into my garden and make it prettified. I am wanting to, if anyone is in Victoria and knows where I can buy a massive amount of hydrangeas, I want the Annabelle hydrangeas. I'm going to cover my front garden in them. Please help me. I am looking for lots of those. Right. What's everyone doing today? Where are you listening from? Today, I was part of a recording for wonderful lady by the name of Danielle, who the first episode of her alignment podcast is coming out soon. And she interviewed me. I was very honored to be asked. I will share the notes. I will share that when it is ready to be out there to the public. But she said that she listens to me on the back porch of an evening. Where do you listen to me? Are you on your way to work? Are you working? Are you just blocking out the noise of the kids? Where are you listening to me? Because I'm always interested. And I live vicariously through you because I'm stuck here in central Victoria doing same old, same old. And I want to be out there in the world with you guys. Let's talk predictions next. All right. When we talk about confirmation bias and predictions, I want to talk about, I have been guilty of that in the past. When I made my election about the 2024, my prediction about the 2024 election, now I made that prediction 2 years prior. And I said that I didn't feel there was an election, but I also didn't feel that Biden was the candidate. I really didn't feel like there was an election. I didn't. I felt like it was litigious. I felt like there was drama. Yes, I was right in one way. But I also, as time went on, said I didn't see Trump being the president. And I took my information and went with confirmation bias on that. And he is president. Whether he should be there legally or not is a different story. And that is going to come out in 2027. But my own confirmation bias was definitely present then. I'm not saying I was wrong. I'm saying that I went with a story I told myself because of what I was receiving and what was happening once Kamala Harris came on board. It is really important that we practice discernment when making predictions. And when I'm off social media, I don't have to be as cagey or as convoluted in the way that I make predictions because I have to protect people to a certain extent. There are some people that always come on my page and go, "Is there any good news?" The good news is for you to make. I can't always give good news, but I am going to talk about some good things coming in at the moment. Over the next coming months, we are going to see a dismantling of the right wing leaders. And it's going to happen in various ways. It's going to happen through illness, it's going to happen through death, and it's going to happen through people fleeing. I feel like Benjamin Netanyahu may flee Israel. He may be taken out. I'm getting very, very confusing signals with him. I don't believe he's going to be the leader for much longer. It's very, very complicated, but he may cut and run. I also feel like there are other people who are relocating to save their skin. We could see news come out about Putin's health. We are certainly going to see news that is going to be undeniable about Trump's health. And I feel like JD Vance is about to become president, whether it's for a short period of time or whether because Trump comes back or whether Trump actually stops being president. I'll know more the more I dive into it. But I think August could see an JD Vance take the wheel for a short period of time. I also see, talking about leaders, the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is going to face some massive controversy in the media. And there's almost going to be a hate campaign against him. I don't know whether he'll last. I really don't. I hope that he does more than 6 months. Seems to be a theme in the UK. There is going to be a mass exodus of politicians in the UK for one reason or another. It's like someone dies, someone resigns, someone is sacked, a reshuffle, so to speak. And it's not just because he is reshuffling his cabinet. This is forced. If I go into the United Kingdom, I feel like we are about to see new riots. There's going to be an event that happens that feels very politically motivated. And there is going to be some riots connected to that. It's going to be quite significant. I do want to warn on that. Here in Australia, we're going to see the death of an icon, whether it's a good icon or a bad icon. And I keep getting a flash of Pauline Hanson. I don't think she's about to die, but it could be someone connected to her. There is a death in Australia of someone very iconic. It is shocking. I know that I said that about Sam Neill. This feels shocking way of passing. That's how I want to put it. In the United States, we are going to see definite news come out about Mitch McConnell, a definite knowledge about him. We're also going to see legal issues, legal threats, mass legal standing against the administration. Now, I have always said that Trump's administration are going to face the wrath of the consequences of his actions, hiding his illness, hiding his ability, hiding things like Mitch McConnell. They are going to face legal action, a large amount of legal action. There is also going to be a lot of class action against that administration as we go through 2027. Floods, Newcastle. I need to talk about Newcastle in Australia. Newcastle, either earthquake, shaking of the ground, massive storm, floods. It feels like the centre of Newcastle is shaken in some way. It could be an explosion. It could be an accident, but it's almost like the city comes to a standstill. So I do want to, I don't even feel like some rounds of Newcastle. I am going to Newcastle. I am also seeing significant floods in Sydney as we go through August, September. Musk. News on Musk's health. News on Musk's business. A talk about mental health to do with Musk and addiction with Musk. That's coming out very, very soon. All right, those are my predictions. I have made them on Tuesday, the 21st of July at 9 a.m. Australia time. That's still the 20th. And I'm going to jump into our meditation now. Today's meditation is just a few minutes of us sitting together, wherever you are in the world, whatever you are doing. We are all connected at this moment in time with an invisible string. Find a comfortable position wherever you are. If it's safe to do so, let your eyes close or soften your gaze downward. Take a breath in and let it go. longer than it came in. I want you to bring to mind something in your life right now that is unresolved. Not the biggest thing necessarily, just something true. A question you don't have the answer to, a relationship you cannot quite read, a decision hovering unmade. Notice without judging it the urge that arises, the urge to resolve it. Right now, in this very moment, notice how quickly the mind reaches for a story to end the discomfort, a story that might not even be true, but that would at least be settled. I want you to try something, just for these next few breaths. Instead of reaching for the answer, can you simply say internally, I don't know yet? Not, I'll never know. Not, there is no answer. Just, I don't know yet. Feel where that lands in your body. For some of you, that will feel like relief, a loosening. For others, it will feel like standing on an edge. Both are honest reactions. Neither is wrong. Now, bring to mind, if you can, a time in your life when not knowing eventually resolved itself. Not because you forced an answer, but because time or truth or life simply revealed it in its own timing. You survived not knowing. You are more practiced at this than your nervous system wants to admit. Take one more breath in, and as you let it out, silently offer yourself this. I can hold this open a little longer. I don't have to fill it today. When you're ready, gently bring your awareness back into the room. Wiggle your fingers and toes and open your eyes whenever it feels right. I don't think the goal is to eliminate confirmation bias. I'm not sure that's even possible. It's stitched into the architecture of how we think. But I do think we can get better at noticing it in the moment it's happening. Asking ourselves, am I evaluating this or am I just matching it to what I already believe? Would I accept this evidence if it pointed the other way? That question, would I accept this if it pointed the other way, is, I think, the single most useful sentence in this entire episode. Write it down if you need to. And to everyone in the spiritual community listening to this, practitioners and sitters alike, I say this with so much love because I am one of you. Let's hold our ability and our beliefs with open hands, not clenched fists. Let's want the truth more than we want to be right. Signs are still sacred. Connection is still real. But sacred things deserve honest scrutiny, not blind confirmation. Thank you for sitting with me through this one. It was a heavier episode than usual, and I appreciate you staying with it all the way to the end. Until next time, I'm Matilda. This is Beyond This. And I'll see you next time. Take care.